So I got everybody some pressure limit switch or some limit switches. We've been seeing these on those carrier weather makers on the blower wheel. And it takes like 4 or 5 days to get them. These are like $6.50 at Johnstone. So make sure everybody's got one on your truck. Here's some more. I'm gonna send it the other way.
So these are tripping because what now? What's causing this? What are we seeing out there?
They fail. Yeah. So the factory one from Carrier has a reset on it. So it's a manual reset.
Those connections.
And when you reset them, they 9 times out of 10 they don't even turn back. They don't come back on. And we end up just jumping them out to get them running. But I mean that's like you said, $6 in your truck.
Roman, can you tell us the purpose on one of these? What's the design? Obviously, if they fail, replace them, but why are they there in the first place?
Yeah, so these are high temperature limit switches. They're designed, it's basically just a bimetal. So there's a little metal wafer line here. And when it hits a certain temperature, it actually flexes the opposite way and breaks the connection that's there. So the reset ones, you're basically literally just pushing a piece of metal back again. So if they don't reset, it's because it's stuck the opposite way. And it happens on a lot of these switches, but it's supposed to automatically flex one way. When it gets to a certain temperature, it flexes the opposite, disconnects it. Again, it's just a piece of metal. But these are for making sure that they don't start fires with electric heat strips. When your heat strips don't get enough airflow and there's too much dust on them, when there's a restriction due to a dirty filter, this will hit the cutoff temperature switch that's on there. It hit the cutoff temperature, you'll get that metal hot, and then it'll actually flex the opposite way and disconnect the high voltage in the unit and disconnect the electric heat strips. And sometimes you can shut the entire unit down based on how it's wired up, but that's essentially all that it is. And sometimes you can see it where you'll pull them and the other ones will actually have where you can see the wafer that's in there. You can physically push it back the opposite way.
That's the carrier one.
Yeah, and most of those, just so you know, sometimes depending on the system, it can be low voltage 24 volts going through that circuit, it would be 120 volts going through that circuit. Either way, you don't want to just stick your fingers on it and try to depress it or push it any other way. But that's basically what it is. It's just bimetal designed to do that. So
it's an open on rise, open on temperature rise switch, right? What are some other open on rise switches that we see out in the field?
High pressure switches.
High pressure switches. Okay, so you got to a job, high pressure switches failed. Do we just quote the high pressure switch there? We'll do a quick little bypass, get it operational, quote that. Do we do that and do we not do that? If we don't do that, why not?
Bypass and then test the unit and see if it actually is going out on high head.
yeah, what I would do is
Actually, yesterday happened to me yesterday.
It doesn't go out on high head. You get it running? Pretty good. We just quote it and go?
Yeah, I would just leave it bypass.
Just depends on what we're cooling.
Okay.
I would leave it bypass and then
And
just quote it.
what the customer wants to be done.
Sure. So when we think about this, we think about these open on rise, we think about thermal protection inside of the compressor, right? These discs, if they are continuously opening and closing, they start to wear out and eventually they're not opening or they're not closing. So if we run into a situation where we're looking at one of these open on rise switches, the question becomes, why did it fail? You get it up and running and everything looks great. It's been shutting on and off for a reason, likely, whether it's happened in the last week or it happened in the last few years. But go a little bit further there, right? If it's a pressure switch that's failed, what could have caused that? It may not be present right when you're working on it, but you want to look at things that may have been causing it, right? If you're in the winter time and you have a dirty coil, it may not be tripping right there. It could be overcharged and it may not show up when it's colder outside. In some cases, what other cases are there with the pressure switch? CFM overamping, you want to make sure you're testing that. Intermittent shut-offs of that, right?
I've seen moisture in the lines that'll freeze around the expansion valve and lock distribution tubes and cause high pressure, and then when the system turns off and the ice that helps within the system, I mean, it's more the R2 sporadic issues.
Anyways, just tie the knot on that one, right? And we're bypassing these switches and we're replacing them, fully test that equipment, ask the question, what could have tripped this, right? And then investigate accordingly. Anyway, anything else there, Larry?
I mean, high pressure switch, I think is a truck stock item, at least it's on the sheet. So at that point, you can, if you can have that conversation with the customer and you find the root cause, I can take care of this today. You know, instead of quoting it and coming back, you know, we can always do that, so.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. The worst case scenario, if it's a braze on or sweat on high pressure switch, there's always the option to get a flared connection on your truck where you can at least put it on the discharge line or on the liquid line, somewhere on that high pressure side. Or if I'm gonna bypass the safety, I'm at least leaving another safety in place. So the system has something that will cut it off. You don't wanna bypass safeties and walk away and quote something, leaving it bypassed. And obviously our goal is to get the equipment operational. So there are workarounds for that if you have to.
And it just depends what you're recording, what space you're recording. If it's an office or
And the client doesn't care that, yeah, whatever, it's down, it's
Leave it
down,
all,
yeah, that's
it's
fine. But there are other options around that. We don't wanna leave systems bypassed with no safeties, especially about electric heaters. Cause wintertime will come around again, they'll not approve the repair and then we'll move on to the 7 other calls that we're doing that day. It's just a hazard we're not worth taking, so. But there are ways to work arounds to get past that and leave it and be okay with it right now, so.
I mean, in my opinion, if the customer is good with it, I'd rather leave it off than bypass the switch.
yes.
Leave it running because I don't know what can happen
Yeah.
later on.
Make sure we communicate that anytime we're leaving a system in op, forward that information in your notes in your repair quote. They want to get on that pretty quick, right? Especially with in op stuff. Cool. You got anything else there, Larry?
No, that's all I got.
Thanks for watching. If you're willing, give this video a thumbs up and drop us a comment. Don't forget to hit that bell icon to stay updated with all of our future videos. And as a quick reminder, HVAC School isn't just a YouTube channel. Dive deeper with us at our main website, hvacrschool.com. Curious for more knowledge on the go? We've got you covered. Tune into the HVAC School podcast, available on all your favorite podcast apps. And while you're at it, join our thriving Facebook group. Also, don't miss out on our free mobile applications available for both iPhone and Android. We're all about community. For techs, by techs.